everyone, welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host of Café con Leche for the next hour, encouraging you to get social with us online, that is. Tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BxRx TV and like us on Facebook at Open BxRx Television. And of course, while you're there, you can find me on Twitter, FB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So COVID-19 has massively impacted all of us, and especially the restaurant industry. According to the recent audit, 200,000 industry jobs were lost. And although New York City just reopened indoor dining at 25% capacity, many concerns are underway as 9 districts may have to close non-essential businesses due to a recent spike of COVID cases. And well, many restaurants, they can afford, they're not going to survive if they shut down again. So joining us to tell us more, we welcome New York City Hospitality Alliance Executive Director, Andrew Rigie. Hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being with us, and thank you for your service in trying to serve, what I consider to be the heartbeat of New York City.
I agree with you. I mean, I always say restaurants are not only vital to the economic footprint of the city, but the social fabric. I mean, it doesn't matter where you're from, what your background is, you connect to food and socializing. And we really need to help support these small businesses because, frankly, I don't know how the city of New York recovers unless our restaurants and our nightlife and our culture are at the core of that recovery.
So walk us through what's going on right now, because I myself have explored and been really, it's been refreshing to be able to go and dine. I mean, at least outdoors. And now, obviously, a lot of the restaurants have to implement outdoor heaters. And I understand that the 25% indoor capacity has now been established. However, there's a new spike that occurred. I believe it's 9 districts. There was a debate going back and forth as to whether those districts were going to be completely closed, and I'm referring to the restaurants. I know that the schools and certain other businesses are. So just walk us through what the conversation is from your perspective.
Yeah, well, thanks for setting that up. You know, it's been so difficult and really confusing and challenging for so many people. So on September 30th, restaurants in New York City began operating indoors at 25% occupancy. Mind you, the rest of the state had been open since about June at a 50% indoor occupancy, as we thankfully continue to see the infection rate go down. But there have been some key areas throughout the city and throughout the state where we've seen the infection rate increase. So Mayor de Blasio came out and said he wanted to shut down businesses in a whole bunch of different zip codes. That was followed the day after by Governor Cuomo saying that that's not the right approach. We need to be more surgical and not just close down zip codes, but really look at areas where the infection rate spiked and do something more surgical where we shut down particular areas or limit operations. Then Mayor de Blasio came back and seemed to imply that he wanted to move forward with his initial proposal of just shutting all this stuff down. And then Governor Cuomo finally came out with a proposal saying, instead of looking at these 9 zip codes, we are going to look at these areas in Brooklyn and Queens where we've seen the infection rate and have 3 different types of zones. And each zone, different types of businesses have to limit their operation. So the red zone, which is the highest infection rate, restaurants have to stop indoor and outdoor dining. The second zones outside that area have to stop indoor dining. Then the final zones, they can keep indoor dining and outdoor dining, but they have to reduce their table capacity to no more than 4 people at a table. And we're still trying to work through all the details, and it's going to take effect by the end of very soon.
So this is all very concerning, obviously, as flu season approaches, which I understand your point of opening towards the summer versus now opening at this capacity while flu season is about to hit us, right? Aside from that, I'm sure a lot of restaurants have to make a lot of investments with the outdoor heaters so that they can continue serving. And I understand that there is a Restaurants Act that is in discussions and in development, but it hasn't been approved yet. So you want to talk a little bit about that and what that looks like for anybody who may potentially be seeking additional funds? Well, actually, probably everyone is seeking additional funding.
Sure. So, the organization I run, the New York City Hospitality Alliance, was a big advocate for outdoor dining. And it's been incredibly important in transforming the city streetscape, frankly, and also providing a lifeline to many of these small businesses and jobs. But only about 40 some odd percent of restaurants in the 5 boroughs are participating in outdoor dining. And as it gets cold, you have the outdoor heating issue, which costs money. And even with heating, are people going to want to sit out in the cold? So while it's an important policy, very, very important, it's going to be made permanent, we hope. It's not going to save the restaurant industry. We really need the federal government to act. And the House of Representatives just passed a new HEROES Act, which includes something called the Restaurants Act, which is a $120 billion grant fund that would give these cash injections to restaurants to afford rent, utilities, payroll, vendors, and all these expenses that they have piling up that they need in order to survive. Because these aren't big businesses with cash reserves. These are like everyday New Yorkers, many of whom are using their personal savings to try to keep their restaurants open and keep some New Yorkers employed. So without passing that, we're going to see an even more dire situation of businesses closing.
So becoming a member of the New York City Hospitality Alliance, is that part of the process in possibly becoming eligible for these grants? Walk us through that really quickly before we go, so that if there's anyone in dire need right now and is unfamiliar with the New York City Hospitality Alliance, just share what those qualifications are.
Yep. So the New York City Hospitality Alliance, we are a not-for-profit trade association that represents restaurants, bars, and nightclubs in the 5 boroughs. We're membership-based, so businesses can join for as little as $1 a day. And that means that we have a team fighting at all levels of government for policies to help you, many of which we've already achieved, like the outdoor dining. But we know there's so much more, like the Restaurant Acts, that needs to get done. So you can go to our website, which is thenycalliance.org, thenycalliance.org, get more information about joining. But we understand the dire fiscal situation. So if people reach out to us, even if they're not a member, we will try to help you. But we urge you, if you can, support us. We're a nonprofit, and like everything else, we need some money to keep on going. If we can get the Restaurants Act passed, or any policy passed, the requirements are not that you're a member of the Hospitality Alliance, but we just remind you that, your support helps fuel our advocacy to be able to get the support to restaurants that they need. So we're fighting around the clock. We hope you'll join the Hospitality Alliance. We're small individually, but when we come together with a collective voice, we're power, and our voice must be heard, because New York City is not New York City without our restaurants and without our nightlife.
I am so there with you. Absolutely 100% correct. The restaurants is like the heartbeat of New York City. So thank you for your service, and thank you for fighting a good fight. And I'm really sending out good energy that this Restaurants Act will be passed and we'll be able to save our restaurants, so that we have all these fabulous choices to fill our palates.
Well, thank you so much for your support of the industry and having me on.
All right, thank you. Once again, you guys, for more resources on New York City restaurants amid the pandemic, please make sure to visit nycalliance.org. We do have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll learn about living between cultures. Don't go anywhere.